There's some betting exchanges that are legal back in Jersey now, and if I lived there, I'd be betting exchanges. They're 102 juice, compared to 110 or even 107, 108, which is there's a couple reduced juice shops. Betting exchanges are the way to go, for sure. But I gotta be blunt, I am shocked. I'm shocked, Jacob, that people don't realize that. They'd rather play with fancy ad with an athlete in the background because they're getting a $100 bonus rather than play with a betting exchange where they're going to make more money saving on juice in a matter of a couple weeks than they would at one of the big name sports books. But I'll tell you, the public is so square. Some of the public, especially the under 30 crowd, they don't care. It shocks me.
Welcome back to Linecraft. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by legendary sports bettor Bill Krackomberger. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jacob.
Yeah, I've been doing this podcast for about 5 or 6 weeks now, and I think you are the first sports bettor we've had on the show. I think, we were talking about it a little before we pressed record, but there are a lot of people, I think, in sports betting media and the industry in general who aren't themselves bettors. So it's a pleasure to have you on as a sports bettor, not just a sports bettor, but one of the iconic, legendary sports bettors in U.S. history.
Well, thanks. I don't really consider myself iconic or legendary, but that's very nice of you. And you know what, though? You do make a valid point there. I really can't think of anyone offhand that is in the media or any kind of shows or podcasts or anything that has a daily show or talks about things on that makes money from being backed by one of the websites or casinos or have a sponsor that actually makes their living betting sports. So I think I'm a standalone person there. People want to talk about betting and they want to talk about what you should bet, but a lot of them don't have skin in the game. Kind of bothers me, actually, though. You want to follow these people on, whatever shows on TV, these big shows, and, they want to tell you what to bet, and yet they don't even put their own money up. Now, some of them do. I'm not saying they all don't, but I don't know anyone that can make a living doing it. If they got fired, they may have to go get a mop job or something because they're not going to make a living betting sports.
Yeah. I think part of it is that, if you're making money, maybe you want to just keep your mouth shut, keep making money. And if you're selling picks, then, it's probably some mostly bullshit,
Not mostly. It's big time, even though I'm in that business now, but I am real tough on pick sellers, man. Most of them, I only know one or two other people that are in that business and that actually do make money, that you can make money with by buying their games. So it's a tough business, very tough business. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the listeners that aren't as familiar with you, do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah. So Bill Krackomberger, and I am. I have been around sports betting my whole entire life since I was a little kid, literally. I grew up back east, and it was kind of a rite of passage, betting sports for us back in the day. I say back in the day, I was a little kid, and both my parents were involved in gambling. My mother, Italian from the Bronx, they used to always gamble, and then my father was introduced to it at a young age. So yeah, we've been betting sports for gambling in general, betting those little football parlay cards. It's funny, I have a piece of paper over here. So they were like these kind of cards like this, and then you'd actually tear off a portion of it and give that into the bookmaker and fill out your parlays. That was interesting business back then that I can beat now, believe it or not. Back then I couldn't, though. It was a sucker betting sports. So, but yeah, the parlay cards are still beatable. Here's a little hint for your audience and some inside information for your audience there. Parlay cards, the parlays are put out on Wednesday. So that means by the time Sunday comes around, it's an antiquated line. So, so so you're betting on an old line. You're betting on an old line, and that's why you get thrown out. Because I can get you thrown out. If you come to Vegas, I'll get you thrown out of any casino on a Sunday betting a parlay card where you're taking 3 points, where now the line is maybe 1, but you're taking 3, and they're gonna get mad at you for betting that side. But yet they'll book the other side. That's why I go after sports books. people don't realize this. They book one-way bets. So it's an unfortunate thing that happens out here. But anyway, when I was a kid, they had parlay card. That was the type of betting you would make, would be a parlay card. And that's when I first started out when as a kid. And then, you wind up going to like race. My dad was taking me to racetracks and Monmouth racetrack and stuff. And from an early age. And, my parents would play cards at night. When the kids went to bed, they would break out poker or continental. The men played pinochle. It was just gambling 24/7 growing up on the East Coast. And not just where I was, any of these kind of cities, Chicago, Pittsburgh, all throughout Pennsylvania, those blue-collar cities, lots of gambling. Philadelphia, of course, New York, New Jersey, Boston. I mean, you can go all over the country. Then those blue-collar cities had a lot of gambling in them. So we had tons of racetracks. I played with my friends. I was in a gambling town. I went to high school in a gambling town, and we just we gambled on everything. We got in a lot of trouble, too. Got in a lot of trouble in school, betting sports and flipping coins in woodshop, pitching quarters against the post office. A couple times again, cops would come over and say, "Oh, you guys got to stop." We gambled in arcades. We gambled on our boardwalk. I grew up in a boardwalk town, a beach boardwalk town on the Jersey Shore. And literally that town was action. Even though it was a blue-collar, tough town, it was action all the time. The Wheels of Chance, which the town is still there. It's called Kingsburg, New Jersey. The Wheels of Chance, where you can win stuffed animals and statues and candy and toys and stuff. That at nighttime, late at night, when the customers all went home from the boardwalk and the rides and stuff with their kids, at nighttime, the operators actually ran cash games where you can go up and bet cash. And it was gambling. It's amazing how I got out, to be honest with you. I had a cousin that went to a card counting school in North Jersey and counting cards and blackjack. He was probably the first person who introduced me to any positive EV or advantage gambling. And that's probably where I started to gain some thought process of, wow, I can be on the other side of this, and I could be beating the people with a mathematical edge. This is an early age too, by the way, rather than just gambling and just hoping that by chance and by luck I win. So from an early age, poker was, believe it or not, a big thing for me. Poker was a really good sport for me. I considered it back then because, my friends would just gamble more and have more of a just taking a shot and hoping they catch that gut shot or that, and where I knew a little bit more about pot odds and some things that were a little more mathematical behind the game rather than just gamble. So my cousin taught me that from a young age. Very smart. Actually, very wealthy today. He is just from owning a business on that boardwalk. Got into a lot of real estate, but his first real bankrolls came from being thrown out of casinos in Atlantic City in the early 80s. So, and that's exactly who I learned a lot of stuff from. So I grew up in a gambling town, got real lucky to have that knowledge at an early age. But yet I was still a loser, still a sucker. You could have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't have those skill sets of bankroll management, of knowing when to leave, being able to leave a loser, that's probably one of the keys in sports betting, one of the keys in gambling. If you can just know tomorrow's another day and not have to chase the money, that's how these monstrosities out my window here in Las Vegas were all built. They were all built because everyone just says, oh, let me just get even. Let me just get even for the day. I want to go home, get even, and I'm good. That's why they double up and triple up, the old martingale system. And as you could see here, Jacob, I went like 8 minutes straight with talking. So, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fascinating. I love to hear it. It reminds me actually, like the story of how I got into it was I learned it from my grandfather. When you're talking about parlay cards, he was telling me when he started getting into sports betting and watching sports in the 30s and 40s, they would have in the newspaper, if you predicted 14 college football games correctly, they'd give you tickets to the New York Giants back when they were playing uptown. And I think when he was like 16, he won. He got 13 out of 14. He picked LSU to win. He's talking about how this was during World War II and got tickets to.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Westchester. My family's from Brooklyn. He's from the Bronx, actually.
Okay, so yeah, my mom is from one street away from Arthur Avenue, like 186th. It's by Adio's Bakery there. So Westchester's a half hour above. You guys grew up with money in Westchester. We grew up poor.
Yeah, well, he grew up actually in the Bronx and then moved to Brooklyn,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, I mean, and then I learned poker from him, playing stud and draw, and I think that's how a lot of people get into sports betting. It's combining this fascination with pot odds and statistics with their love of sports.
Yeah, my first gambling really when I made money was in poker back in the late '80s, early '90s. It was poker before any TV, lipstick cam, all before poker was fashionable. You know, yeah, that was really. But sports betting just came from my cousin learning about underdogs, learning about what the public bets, and you want to be on the bookmaker's side, and then actually being in Atlantic City, my early 20s, and someone actually calling me from jail, telling me there was an advantage slot machine in the casino. He heard about it in Atlantic County. He heard about this bank of slot machines that were blackjack, which were paying too much. He didn't know. He didn't understand about it. He just heard about the rumor, told me where to go, the old Golden Nugget, which is that now it's closed. It went to the Atlantic City Hilton. It changed to like the Atlantic, all different buildings, but it was like the Golden Nugget back then, and there was a bank of machines, and the machine, I found the bank, but I did not know what I was doing. It just so happens that someone got up from one of the machines. It was like late, and it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and the person I sat down next to changed my life. Amazing. The guy on my left, he said to me, "Can you please put coins in the machine?" This is before, by the way, there was tickets in and out. There was no tickets. It was coins. So, or you could still put a bill in, but there was no TITO, ticket in, ticket out. So he said to me, he goes, "Hey, can you buy some rolls of dollars off me?" I said, "Sure." So he's about 6'7", kind of gangly, very, you could tell he's very astute, very smart. And what that was, it was a blackjack machine. He was telling me to put the dollars in it because he wanted to keep the hopper. There was hoppers back then in the machine, full of coins. This way, the slot attendants wouldn't have to come over with bags of coins. This is before but back then you used to have big bags of coins. They used to dump them and fill the machines, the slot attendants in the hard count. And he was trying to keep that fill so they wouldn't see a glitch in the system when people winning. Now, what that glitch was for when you bet $1 and you play blackjack head to head, you're playing versus the computer. You had an option to surrender. Surrender can be an advantage, by the way, for blackjack card counting and stuff. You get 50% of your bet back, but you just quit the hand. You give them 50%. Well, on this machine, you got the whole dollar back. So if you had like 15 versus 10, you press the surrender, get your buck back, start over. What a game. Oh, my God. So really, you should surrender everything up to 18 because 18 is a losing hand versus 10. So you should surrender every hand, even 18s, and get your dollar back. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? I had about, I don't know, a couple grand in the bank into my name trying to save $100 a week. That night I made $6,000. It was life-changing for me in many ways. The most is because the guy on my left who sold me those coins was a sports bettor. And he also worked for resorts in Atlantic City, one of the casinos. And he was doing some moonlighting by being in the casino. And he was actually doing a little bit of moonlighting. He was like, I'm in the card count. I'm on the card count board here. I'm actually the head of it. So I, watch all the card counters and I alert the floor people and the pit bosses to this guy's counting cards. But at nighttime, he would go out and card count himself and find advantages like this bank of machines. He also told me about sports betting, how the sports betting, sports betting wasn't legal yet. It was the early 90s. It wasn't legal in Atlantic City. But he told me about bookmakers and edges. They have different lines based on where they were, Philadelphia, New York, and you can middle and scalp. And that my first bankroll was made middling and scalping. It wasn't made from people think, oh, you just bet and you're going to win because you get a little bit of edge on the line. Well, it was actually made because you would find so much difference in lines. There wasn't a computer at it. The internet was not invented yet. So nobody knew what someone else's lines were. But if you were like the famous Four Corners, I came into Vegas a couple times back then, the famous Four Corners on the Las Vegas Strip and Flamingo, you had so many different sports books to go to for lines. You can go to many different places. And what I mean, like, you can go to like Caesars. Back then was like the Barbary Coast, Flamingo, Bally's on the corner. Behind Bally's, right across the street, used to be a little casino called Bourbon Street. Next to that was like the San Remo. There was all these different sports books you can go, middling and scalping, laying 3 in a game and taking 4.5 and 5 on a college basketball game. And that's when I literally made my first real bankroll was with him. His name is Frank. He's still around, Frank. A very wealthy guy, too. These guys, I'm glad I was around these real wealthy guys at an early age, and they helped me. And, life's about luck sometimes, too. I was around some guys that had bankrolls that were willing to share. And I took our business, though. We went partners. Me and Frank are partners the next 10 years. I took our business to a further level, though, because I was more aggressive than maybe even Frank. And we made a lot of money together, middling and scalping. And then we actually made, I really came to the realization at an early age that always put more on the bad line, the bad side. So, if you're laying 3 on a game and it goes to 5, well, you want a little bit more on a 3. In other words, you want maybe $1,000 minus the 3. On the other side, you'll take $700 back plus 5. So you'll have more on what's considered the bad side, the weaker line. Well, sitting here today, and even throughout the 2000s, I realized that wasn't the way to go. The way to go was just to bet the bad side, just to be on the sharp side of the line. Because what we're doing is we're actually just middling or scalping for that sports book that we're taking the 5 and giving them the money over time. So, but I didn't have the bankroll back then. So I didn't have the bankroll to take, a couple thousand on side. Now I just bet sides. And to be real blunt, it's so hard to get down. I've been thrown out of so many different bookmakers over time and sports books and casinos. Even in this town, I'm not allowed to bet at 4 or 5 different sports books. Back east, I'm not allowed to bet at a dozen sports books. Now, I don't do anything wrong or illegal, just using my brain. But these sports books only want to book losers. Even though they may say winners, I see signs out here on the highway that say, "We love our winners, Stations Casinos." Well, Stations throws people out if they win long term, so I'm one of them. But that's the gist of it.
Yeah, I mean that's great to hear the history of your betting. It's just incredibly impressive that you've been able to maintain, being profitable for so long. I think, if you look at poker as an example, like when poker was modernized, a lot of the professional poker players just couldn't keep up with sort of the new age of poker. I think similarly in sports betting, looking back at the 80s, 90s, it seems like it was so easy to make money, just middling and scalping, as you said. And the fact that you're able to, continue to adapt and, beat these very increasingly sharp sports books is very impressive. But I think what you were talking about reminded me of a conversation I had with my co-founder Kalechi on this podcast actually 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we were talking about, if you have like an arbitrage bet, sort of like a middling bet, does it make sense to take both or to only take the sort of the sharp side? And, what's like sort of the optimal strategy there? I think, for a lot of people, it's just a lot easier. They don't have to think that much about finding which is the sharp side, especially nowadays where very few lines are actually stale. It's just much easier to take both. And you need to have quite a large bankroll, I think, if you want to just be one way. It's a lot easier to hedge. But I think if you really care just about optimizing expected value, it makes sense to just identify the side that is sort of the weaker side and bet into it.
Oh, yeah. I've been doing that for 20 years. I haven't really middled games unless something was just an opportunity where I know someone's going to be out. It's a key player like LeBron James or something, and you could throw 5 figures one way and, it's mathematically, someone's going to move 3 or 4 points. It's worth it to, bet both sides of especially an NBA game, which is very random, very hard to beat the NBA. Matter of fact, I don't know anyone that does. I can't name anyone that beats NBA sides year in, year out, or NFL sides are even just as hard. I've had some luck in the NFL. Living in Vegas, there is some places you could find half a points here around the key numbers, and you could probably, beat the NFL. But I do beat totals, and I beat proposition bets and player props and stuff like that. but that's also why I get thrown out. They want guys that just bet sides and are suckers.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, sort of moving to the operator side, I didn't even realize just how easy it is to identify who's sharp, who's not. And I mean, we don't limit anyone, we don't ban anyone, but if we were, I mean, we could just do it with, we can automate it very, very easily.
You can know it the first day. The first day, you'll see if anyone's sharp.
The first day. I mean,
they're laying $1.13 on a ball game, and it moves to $1.29. You know that they're long. If they can get lucky one or two games, but on the right side, but consistently, someone's sharp. So, and I'm not saying you should throw them out. I'm saying you can limit them and maybe learn from them. If they're so sharp, put your customer base on the other side of that. That's what I say.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with what we're doing, but we're building a betting exchange where we could put sharp bettors on opposite sides.
There's some betting exchanges that are legal back in Jersey now, and if I lived there, I'd be betting exchanges. They're 102 juice, compared to 110 or even 107, 108, which is so there's a couple of reduced juice shops. Betting exchanges are the way to go for sure. But I got to be blunt. I am shocked. I'm shocked, Jacob, that people don't realize that. They'd rather play with a fancy ad with an athlete in the background because they're getting a $100 bonus rather than play with a betting exchange where they're going to lay and take. They're going to make more money saving on juice in a matter of a couple weeks than they would at one of the big name sports books. But I'll tell you, the public is so square. Some of the public, especially the under 30 crowd, they don't care. If Jamie Foxx is slinging something, or one of the Manning brothers or Tom Brady, they're going to go there. It shocks me.
Yeah, honestly, like speaking to my friends who are pretty square, I actually think it's a different phenomenon at play. I think there are three things. One is that there's just a lot of people who understand why low vig books or exchanges are better, but they're just betting such small unit sizes that saving 10 cents here and there just doesn't move the needle. And I don't think it's even that they're influenced by like Jamie Foxx or Tom Brady or whoever. I think it's just FanDuel, DraftKings are easier to use. They have a nice user interface. They're accustomed to using apps that just work very well, and they care more about that than they do about price. Number two is that they're just now betting these same game parlays and a lot of these more sort of lottery style sports betting. And unfortunately, a lot of the exchanges don't really support those types of bets. People want to have one app where they can bet everything, and the player props are huge. They want to bet like the color of the Gatorade and first basket scored and all of that. It's hard for exchanges to support that, just given that you have to concentrate liquidity, you have to have a critical mass of bettors, and I think that's part of why we're doing things the way we are, where most of it, all the main markets are two-way markets where you're betting against other people. But for the parlays, player props, those are going to be one-sided markets.
Yeah, but who wants to bet that stuff anyway? If you win on it, if you're sharp like myself, you're going to get limited to a peanut or thrown out. If you're going to bet something, why not lay, like I said, I'll call it 102 juice instead of 110 juice. In the end, that's going to make you more money than any of those sucker parlay bets or same game thing. No way.
Yeah, I mean, not to sort of self-promote a little, but I think part of what we're trying to do is that we want to have competitive, parlay and player prop markets where, first of all, you can bet the no side of markets. So instead of just betting, LeBron James to score the first basket, you can bet LeBron James to not score the first basket. So just way more types of bets, and it's a lot easier for us to sort of manage the risk. And also number two is that you can actually just calculate the hold of sportsbooks. Sometimes if you're betting futures, it's just impossible to see unless you're Circa, where they publish their theoretical hold. It's really difficult for a casual bettor who's pretty square, as you said, to really understand how much is the book taking, what's their edge. And that's something we're trying to be transparent about.
Yeah, Circa publishes, I know they publish hold on certain things like a majors in golf or the Masters and stuff, but and they take a good sized bet. But the problem with someone like me, I need a lot of money down on games. So because you only have a small edge, 2-3%. If you have 5%, it's a miracle. But so if you bet Circa, the entire Dom Best screen moves, or Spanky's odd service is going to move because everyone copies off Circa. So I really don't bet Circa till last, if anything, if that surprises you.
No, I mean, it makes sense. So I was going to ask, like, where, if you feel comfortable sharing this, like, what are the main books that you're betting into? Do you have different strategies when you're betting into different books? Because I think, as you were alluding to, it's not just about identifying the right price and where to bet. It's like the chronology of your bets. When am I going to bet book A versus book B? Trying to get as much action down as possible before the game starts.
Yeah, like, Caesars was a great book to me. Here in Vegas, they were unbelievable. They were taking some really ridiculous bets. I would put them in, and for about a year, they took every bet. Then they lowered me down to a couple thousand a bet, and it was great. That's fine. You're entitled to, at least you're taking a good sized bet. They were my number one out. Then they threw me out. They threw me out because I used my brain to bet something about an NBA player that was going to play because he wanted to get a continued streak. So he was going to play. And I knew it because it was on Twitter, it was on different things about a continuous streak. And I played, they had a same game parlay that was Willie not, rebounds, assists. I knew he was only going to play a minute or a couple minutes just to get in there. And I played that. I won $1,300. And the guy that runs the book threw everyone out that played that. He threw out literally dozens and dozens and dozens of guys that were just following off Twitter. So, but what these sports books don't realize is, Jacob, is it's so easy to beard back in. Now you don't know it's Bill Krackomberger. Now I go in and you're playing with these sports books that throw you out, and now they have to figure out, okay, well, this guy's pretty sharp, but we really don't know who he is. I never heard of him. He's probably someone we threw out, and they don't realize it. And and that goes for all the sports books, though. That's not just Caesars. That's every book. DraftKings, FanDuel, everyone that throws someone out, very easy to beard back in. And now you have to figure out who it is. So they were a good book to me. They've gotten tighter now across the market, though, with everybody. They have gotten tighter, I hear. But I do play, like, Westgate's great to me. And I beat them for a ton of money. And I give Jay and the gang over there lots of credit because they've taken a lot of bets from me that were really good advantage, and I've had things that move many points, and they take the bets and they have paid me. So, but yeah, around town, even some of the smaller books, you'll play. Stations is a great book, actually. I mean, I know they throw people out for winning long term, but Stations is a good book. They move last. And they take bets, and then they'll until you get thrown out and find a new account. But these places are around town, and even back in Jersey at the counter. I'm not talking. You mentioned FanDuel and DraftKings before, and yes, they are. I had some problems with them on their apps, but they take bets at the counter. I'm flying tomorrow. Tomorrow night, I'm flying to Foxwoods, which is DraftKings at the counter, and then I have Mohegan Sun, which is FanDuel at the counter, and the counters take bets, so they're actually very, very good to me at the windows. And I have like a pile of tickets here that I'm actually gonna, that I've had I haven't been there in a couple months, and I'm gonna go back there and cash some tickets and see if I can bet some futures. Season wins over under NFL. See, like, who thinks of that stuff in May and June? 2 weeks ago, I was in Florida betting Hard Rock, which shocked me. I was visiting my brother over in Tampa a month ago, and just so happens I went to the casino there, and they were the first sports book that had lines on the regular season wins, and they were taking. I just went up there and tested them with like $5,000 bets, and they took it. They took the bets, and so I literally went back home and flew back out to Florida because I didn't have enough money with me. So there were some really good opportunities there with Hard Rock, and Hard Rock is taking bets for people. They were taking college baseball and taking like $2,000 on college baseball. I couldn't believe it. Like, I can't get $2,000 on a college baseball game in here in town.
Yeah. I mean, it helps that they have a monopoly, and I think it's probably pretty easy for them to balance their books.
They are making so much money down there. You can't get to a slot machine on the weekends. I couldn't believe it. Friday, Saturday night, it was like New Year's Eve in Vegas. You can't get to a slot machine on a regular Friday, Saturday there. And, I'll tell you something else. the property itself. The recent one I went to was in Hollywood, and
Yeah,
oh my
I've been there.
God, that Guitar Hotel was so nice.
I
The
love that
the
place.
the pools out there, the different pools and jacuzzis, and the really really nice, and it really impressed me. It's very hard to impress me. They impressed me.
Yeah, they've got a
Like
nice poker
Bahamas.
room
It reminded me
also.
like the Bahamas. I'm trying to think of the hotel there. Bahamar. It reminded me like Bahamar or the Atlantis or something. It was really nice. One of the nicest casinos I've ever been to. So they did a good job.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of that property. So, how much of your betting is over the counter versus on the apps?
Well, if they take, like, I would rather bet at the counter, like South Point. They're very good to me here in town, and the South Point takes a very good sized bet for me at the counter, but not on the app. The apps are limited to, like, even the NBA is like $500, but if you go to the counter, they'll take 10 times or what they need. I was there for March Madness, and the guys behind the counter, I asked management, how much can I bet on? I bet on Tennessee money line. I bet a lot of money. And I was like, how much can I bet on that? And he's like, oh, you can bet 10 grand. I was like, okay, good. Like, that's that's a good size bet. And they had by the way, I'm only going to bet them if they have the best line. So they had the best line. It was like minus $1.70, where the whole market was minus $1.90. And but like a situation came up the other night where I seen on the NBA game, they had a scalp right in front of me on the screen. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, minus $1.70. The Boston game, minus $1.70. I could have took $1.77 on the other side, but unfortunately the app only takes $500. So I didn't even bet it for the 7 cents. I just let it go. But yeah, there's opportunities. They'll have some certain players. Living in Vegas, having casinos like the Wynn's very good to me. They'll have giant players come in. I've watched it myself on a Sunday. I've seen guys going like bricks of $500,000 from the casino, or chips that are big casino players, about $500,000 on whatever game's on there, whatever the primetime game is. Now the Wynn is forced to take that bet because this player can win or lose that in a single night on baccarat. So they're forced to take that bet. So what does Doug, the guy that runs the casino, what does he have to do while he runs a sports book? They have to overmove and get some money on the other side of that game. So therefore, they're going to hang that fruit out and dangle that low-hanging fruit to guys like myself and stuff. I've seen it many times at the Wynn. I'll just tell you, there's a little nugget for people to make sure you keep the Wynn on the Wynn app, a couple bucks in there, because you'll find some stuff in there during football that you won't find anywhere. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to sometimes like this relationship that exists between the sharp bettors and the books, where you for the most part it's antagonistic, but occasionally you're helping them out a bit by taking some of the action.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to ask, who are the sports bettors aside from the couple of people you mentioned earlier in the conversation? Who are the people you learn the most from, or that you look up to the most?
I think it's out there now. I put it out there on VSiN and stuff. The guys at Pinnacle back in the day, Pinnacle Sports, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were the original computer group guys that were part of, back in the day, Doc Midland and Billy Walters, computer group guys in the 80s. They were some big movers for them, and they were very sharp, analytical type of guys, not your normal bookmakers. I learned a lot from them. I learned the values of like NBA talk. So NBA, like people say NBA, okay, like I just said before, it doesn't matter about buying points and stuff. Well, it does really, because especially back in the day, games used to land more. It seems like in the NBA, you're supposed to buy to like 3, 5, 7. College basketball, there's key numbers in college basketball. Those guys taught me the key numbers. Alan Boston taught me college basketball, buying onto the 2 and the 3, even the 5. And you'll buy points, especially the lower the total in the game, because the game's more likely to land. So, as a matter of fact, one of the guys at Pinnacle said, if I had to charge the right number to buy onto 2 and 3, no one would play with me in college basketball. So sports books kind of know that now. But I still have some in town that charge 10 cents to buy. Some charge 15, which is not beatable. But to beat the college basketball, yeah, you have to buy. So there's a couple guys. Steve Fezzik in town here. He's gotten much better over the years, especially he's got much better media. Good interview for you to have, by the way. Friends with Steve. I've learned a lot
Yeah,
off him too.
put me in touch.
Yeah, Steve's good. He's a, you know what? There's not a lot more. Billy Walters, mentor, and I always thought Billy was a great guy. Helped a lot of people. I always talk about this. People say the bad things. Oh, well, you put you on the bad side of a game, and you know, there's reasons why that may happen. Maybe you deserve to be put on the bad side of a game. Certain people he was dealing with, but he definitely a mentor. Doc Midland and his programs. Definitely, he's 90 some years old. He's still at it, believe it or not, like 95. It's unbelievable. Still at it. And like I said, legendary computer group. There's still some sharp groups out there that win, but definitely less, and it's definitely harder and harder to win every day. You know how you win now? Maybe when the new sports books came to the country, you win by getting bonuses, by depositing 10 grand, and they would give you 2,000 cash. By depositing 50 grand, and they would give you 10,000 cash. These are real bonuses, by the way. That's how you win. Going in and grabbing bonus and being a bonus whore. It's literally back like it was back in the age of NetTeller in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you would send money back and forth to the sports books, transfer money, and get big sign-up bonuses. So that's happened again, though it slowly has slowed down last season. But up until for like 5 years straight, it was just they were giving away money after money after money. And they'll still give away money. Sports books still have they'll still go after big players, and they still have casino hosts that used to work in the casino business that now work for the big sports books, and they have those sign-up bonuses and those different kind of bonus bets, and they give you free money. But, of course, they're not going to give Bill Krackomberger money, but they might give Bill Krackomberger money without knowing it.
Yeah. So what's it like to live in Vegas? Like seeing people, I mean, like you probably deal with sports bet, the people who work at the different counters, and you probably run into, a lot of, whether it's VIPs or operators, I'm sure you have tons of crazy stories about what it's like.
Yeah, some are good, some are bad. I'm not a party guy, so I don't really like to even go out at night. I don't drink, smoke, ever do a drug or anything. I like to eat a little bit, so I do have to go out to eat a lot. But it's nice. It's nice to walk into a casino, and I'm really a teacher at heart. I try to teach people and help people, so I don't mind people coming up to me in sports books asking me questions, and I try to give advice, and I do a lot of things on responsible gambling too, because I know what it is to be a crazy kid gambling. Even in my early 20s until I was sharpened up at around 25, maybe 26 actually. So I know what it is to be in those situations and to be a sucker and a loser and to be caught up with chasing and even if you're born, like I said earlier, if you're born into like Jersey, New York, or anything in Pennsylvania, there's no bankroll management. If you have $1,000, you're going to the casino now and betting $333 on 3 games, which you can't win. Long term, the sharpest information in the world, you're not going to win betting 30% of your bankroll in one game. It's impossible. You may run lucky, but in the end, by having that mentality and that leak, you're going to go broke. So it's nice going around. The operators are good to me. I was just saying, you'll go over to like the Westgate, Jay, and all those guys that work there. Great. Excuse me. The guys downtown, Circa, they're pretty good to me over there too. Anytime I need a bigger bet on something, I text one of the guys and he gets the permission for a bigger bet. And on certain futures or something, maybe they only have 100 to 1 on 100 to 1. You can only bet $100 or something, so they'll take a little more. And the guys down at, like I said, over at South Point, very good to me. Old school bookmakers. They're pretty good. Excuse me, Jacob. I've been coughing for 6 months. It's amazing. Never had a cold for 5 years. Never had COVID. But we have like this thing going around Vegas and maybe even the whole United States. I don't know.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I haven't heard about that. What are your do you bet like WNBA and like more niche sports, European sports besides sort of player props? Where do you make the most money?
You're looking at smaller markets. Like right now, we are betting WNBA. I'm betting some of the college baseball. I don't bet NBA sides. I'll bet NBA player props. I've run ridiculous this year on them. Had bet baseball, first 5 innings, doing good. Up money in baseball for the year. But the real cheese is coming up here in a couple months. Preseason football, which I think we ran like stupid. I don't want to, like, it's hard to believe. I think we're like we started out like 18-5. It was ridiculous in college. I mean, on the preseason football, it's all about information too. So, good information in that. NFL player props, of course. I play them, and I'll do some teasers. Though teaser pricing's out of control. You know, when I first started betting teasers, I was laying $1.15 on a 7-point teaser. Then it went to $1.20. I was laying even on a 6-point teaser at many shops, and now there's shops in this town that are charging $1.50 and $1.60 which is unbeatable for anybody. Listen, I'll even say $1.40. That's unbeatable. $1.30 that's borderline, but that's what everyone charges for 7-point teasers. So, and those teasers are not worth, not only because the pricing has got out of control, the numbers don't land as much because the 7 and the 3 aren't the key numbers they used to be. They were the key numbers in the NFL, and because of analytics going for 2, because the extra point got moved back 10 points, missing extra points, not as key as it used to be. So I'm not as out there with teasers like I used to be.
Yeah. Also, I think these strategies, once they get out there, like the bookmakers hear about them too, and then they start to incorporate the pricing. Whether it's unabated or people on Twitter or whoever it is. Like once people get wind of something, I think it's hard for that to be continue. Like just because it was a winning strategy in the past doesn't mean that it'll continue to be winning. But what do you think about what happened with right angle sports?
What happened with them?
Yeah, I mean, just that I think there are a lot of these groups that have been not doing as well the last couple of years.
They were very open about that. Who else sells games that's so honest and coming out and telling you that they're on a losing streak or they lost? And I'll be blunt. It's what I do. I have a write up every single week on my app of what I did the week before, win or lose. So it's harder to win than ever. College basketball was a tough season for I don't know a single syndicate that beat it. So I had lunch with someone last week that I do trust that told me he won, and he was a big winning bettor, in the early 2000s, and I just lost. He bets like a nickel a game, believe it or not, dime a game. It was a side thing, but I know he was a big winner. But he bets college basketball totals, and I met with him, and he had a winning season. But besides him, I don't know anyone really that beat college basketball. At least they're honest and not shady like all these guys that say, "Oh yeah, we were 5-1 last week. Oh, we're 12-0." They tell you what they've done lately, and not what they've done the season or lifetime, which is total BS. There's Charlotte and snake oil salesmen all over TikTok and Instagram and even Twitter. Everyone says they win. So I really don't know anyone that is more open and transparent than myself. And Edward from Right Angle Sports is very transparent about things, about his wins and losses.
Yeah. So you were telling me that most of your money still comes from sports betting, not from the media stuff or the handicapping
Definitely.
stuff. Yeah. So what motivates you to sell picks and to sort of be a personality?
Well, not getting down what I used to. Believe it or not, I used to bet more 10 years ago on games than now. Years ago was a better time for me selling games. I'm sorry, betting games where I had so many different outs, and I just don't have all of those outs now like I used to have. So I just thought it was good to share. And I've been sharing great information for years. I think we've literally won. I don't know the number offhand, but I think it's something like 23 of 26 months. That's ridiculous. How can you run like that? I mean, so I have done very well. I've run better on that. Sometimes I run better. Literally, I say, Jesus, I gave out more winners last week than I actually bet. So I try to bet everything, but I want to give the customers a chance to bet first. So I don't want to move a line. I'm not going to, there's a word for that, front running. I'm not going to front run customers and do that kind of thing. So Jacob, do you come after people that sell picks? Is that why you asked that?
Do I come? No, not at all. I like people who sell picks. I think it's
I think I think most of them are fucking scumbags, if you want to know the truth.
I think 99% of them are scumbags. But
yeah.
I think that they do educate people a little bit. I think just forcing people to track their behavior, I think, makes
I
people
can make a
smarter.
lot more money. A lot. I'm talking about I can make 6 figures more a year selling picks if I want. If I wanted to do it, I would be more of. Look at my Twitter feed. I put up a crack wins pick feed. A crack wins post every like once or twice a month. I could be out there like everyone else. Oh my God, we've won 25 out of 27 months. We're 10-0 here. I've hit some unbelievable long shots for my customers. Stupid things. I had the draft at 20-1. I mean, I bet it here multiple times. Banchero. I gave it out on shows. I didn't push. I never even pushed it on my socials. I mean, I had Ohtani when he won the 33-1. I won like I don't know. I won a lot, like 50 grand on that myself. But I also give it out to clients at 30-1. Like I'm probably pretty stupid for not pushing that more in people's faces and pushing the selling of picks more in people's faces. I could make another 300,000 a year doing that. Trust me, I could. Just showing them tickets and showing them the wins and
I mean, honestly,
me. I don't have it
sure.
in me to do it.
I mean, I think most industries, if you're dishonest, you can make more money. I think, at least in the short term. I think it's unfortunate that most people sort of marketing themselves as.
I wouldn't even be dishonest. I would just tell the truth. I would tell the truth about me, and I should probably do it. You maybe gave me a good idea. You're going to make me some more money, Jacob. Good deal. I'm glad you talked about this.
All right. Well, give me a cut.
All right.
Well, anyway, I really appreciate you coming on. It was a lot of fun, very different than most of the conversations
I hope
I've had on Linecraft.
Just kind of answering some questions. Two guys sitting around in a bar or something.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think, we've heard from like the operators more so, people who, we had like the odds jam guy. We had 2 people from our team internally talk about how we make our lines. So I think it's cool to give our listeners the sort of different perspectives of how do the sports books make their lines, how do they move them in real time, and then how do people like you take advantage of sports books and continue to make money. I think most people listening are probably more interested in hearing stories from people like you, honestly. So really appreciate you coming on.
Where are you guys going to be legal when you light up, when you green light?
Yeah, so we went live in Colorado in January. So we were operating there for 3 months, and we're now, we haven't officially announced this yet, but we are pivoting to a sweepstakes model to allow us to launch nationwide. And so sort of following the same regulatory framework as companies like Fliff. So the idea is, we'll be able to launch in 44, 45 states, hopefully.
Wow, nice.
Later this year, if all goes according to plan. Yeah. So, really what we're trying to build is the first, true peer-to-peer sports betting exchange on a national level. And unlike the other exchanges, we're providing liquidity ourselves. So if we can find a counterparty, we'll serve as a counterparty. So in a sense, we're also the house for some portion of the bets.
The ones in Jersey actually put up liquidity themselves too. I know the one guy.
I don't believe they do.
Really? Is he lying to me? Wow.
I'm not sure. Well, there were 2 of them. One of them recently shut down.
Which one shut down? I didn't even know.
I think Profit is going through a bit of a pivot.
Profit Exchange? Wow.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they're following a similar path as us, trying to get. I think the challenge is one is that it's just a lower margin product,
nationwide,
so it's harder to.
Yeah, for sure.
And if there's the path to expand nationally, it's going state by state, having to get market access, costs a couple $1 million per state. Dealing with regulators is quite challenging. So, the other one,
you're gonna get shaken down.
We'll see. I think we're trying to do things, above board and
good. Well, I hope you guys do well. As well.
Sport Trade is still live in Jersey. They just recently expanded to a couple other states. I'm very much rooting for them.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of theirs. They have a cool new product that they just shipped this past week. I think they are outsourcing market making, and I think that's part of the challenge of the exchanges is like you just need to guarantee that you have someone on the other side. We're trying to do that ourselves, but people are taking different approaches. So
we'll
see. It's an interesting time.
Good deal. Good deal.
Anyway, yeah, really appreciate you coming on, and
No problem.
yeah,
Thanks,
pleasure
man.
meeting you.
Good. Anytime you want me on, no problem. I'm happy to come on.